Welcome to Bare Bones. With your host, Danny Meehan and Dr. Mason West.
Welcome into this episode of Bare Bones. As always, I am Mason West. Today, this isn't just Bears Packers. This is January. This is the playoffs, and this is the moment where excuses stop working. For years, the rivalry came with history and heartbreak. Now the Bears show up with expectations and a chance to change the story when it actually matters. This game won't be won on hype. It'll be won in the trenches, on third down, and by who's still standing when the fourth quarter gets tight and the hits start to add up. So today, we're breaking it all down, the matchups, the coaching decisions, the wear and tear, and the moments that will decide whether this team is built for playoff football. Let's get into it, of course, with Danny Meehan and Khari Thompson. Danny, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. The wife's Christmas gift that I got her is coming up. I got her a little spa weekend for a day and a half tomorrow into like Saturday afternoon in Milwaukee, where she's going to get her hair done, go get a massage, all that fun stuff, and it'll be single dad duty starting tomorrow morning, probably around 11. So lucky me.
All right, spa and single dad. Khari, what do you got?
Real quick, how many days, how much time are you single dadding?
Gonna be from really tomorrow morning into like probably around 4 or 5 in the afternoon on Saturday before the game.
I feel you on that one. Well, I'm doing good over here. Just got my my old alumni gear. I've been missing Chicago sweaters and sweats for a number of years, but they rolled in today. Had to throw them on for the show because my latest jersey has not gotten here. I'm actually going to be solo dadding for 9 days at the end of this month, which is like the 5th time I've had to do that in the past calendar year. So yeah, this is great. Wife's going to be in
marry
Paris.
Someone smarter than you.
Yeah, it'd be what it be. But yeah, wife's going to be in Paris. Going without me sucks. But you know what? It's all good because, we got playoff football to talk about this week. And I did not see this one coming when we started the year. And yet here we are.
And that's an excellent transition. So today, we'll do a couple things the same. We have a brief chart review, just a couple quotes. We'll do the training room stuff because that's very important. But in today's show, it's going to be a little bit more. We got rid of the categories for this one. I'm just going to fire off a bunch of questions about this matchup between the Bears and the Packers to both Khari and Danny. And if you know the show, let's be real, all three of us, we can talk a lot. And to keep it rolling, I'm going to have a special button sound here that I'm going to play. Because, and this is probably, if someone recognizes that, props to you. But anyway, I'm going to play that because you're being a cheesehead. Shut up. We're going to move on a little bit. So keep the answers going and stay on topic. All right.
On topic? We can't do that. You know that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Like I said, brief chart review here. Just got 2 quotes we're going to bring up. Bears quarterback Caleb Williams said this week, "I think I am built for these moments, mentality-wise, how I've worked. I've been in a bunch of big games before. In those moments and in these moments, I think I could provide a spark for the team." He also said he doesn't really care, if he has to hand off the ball 30 times in a game, if that's his role. Khari, what are your thoughts on Caleb saying that? And also Ben Johnson saying the same thing.
It's refreshing, man. It's been a while since we felt like the Chicago Bears had a coach and quarterback specifically that believed in themselves enough to say we're built for this. And after what they've done this year, I'm not saying it's all perfect. I'm not saying it guarantees anything, but I believe it. I believe that when the chips are down, even if they make mistakes, this team is going to believe in themselves enough to to stay in it until the end. And I feel like, again, over the years, I don't know that we've really felt that. We've seen a lot of collapses. We've seen a lot of dumb stuff. We've seen a lot of quit. This team has no quit in it.
Danny,
I would tend to
what about
agree
you?
with Kyrie. I would tend to agree with what Kyrie said there. Like they clearly have a level of resilience to them. They're the cardiac bears, cardiac kids, whatever you want to say. That's a lot of never say die. Even last week with Detroit, they didn't really lay down until the end, and it was because they simply ran out of time, which obviously happens. I would like to see them not going into the playoffs on a 2-game losing streak. I mean, Mason, you and I talked about it last week. We would have very much liked them to show they were the more talented, good football team, and instead came out really for 3 quarters kind of flat and not ready to play football. And that's okay. Don't let it happen again, kind of thing. And to kind of Kyrie's point, the confidence, Caleb has been exuding that for a few weeks now, going back to the kind of testy answer with, I forget what reporter asked it. Well, did you think you can make that throw? And he's like, I can make any throw on the field, like full stop. Like, that's it. It's kind of nice to have that. That's what greatness sounds and looks like from time to time.
Yeah, it's not fake. I'll say that. It's not fake. And the nice part is that
No.
we've seen it happen.
No, not
Talking
fake at
about
all.
that confidence, Bears rookie tight end Cole Stolden on Ben Johnson's message for the playoffs for this team. After the Lions game, he said, as in Ben Johnson, if you're not prepared to play the next 5 weeks, or if you're thinking about anything else, thinking about booking a flight, vacations, or anything, don't come in. He made it very clear about what's at stake and what this team is looking for. I mean, to me, that sounds like a confident Ben Johnson, but also a Ben Johnson that knows, how important it is to stay focused. And, let's be real. This is a long season. This is hard mentally, physically, emotionally for these guys. But, you can't be, like he said, planning where you're going to be spending the next couple months on a vacay. You got to be here and you got to be committed.
It's very pointed, but it's also very coachy. Like, no coach of a professional team, even when fans are pining for like the tank, these guys are competitive to a point of they don't know how to lose. They don't accept that reality of, well, what's best is, maybe understanding you're overmanned or whatever. No, he's coaching the only way he knows how, which is full go 100% of the time.
I mean, you look at, for example, Max Crosby, who couldn't even handle being shut down for the last couple games of the season, even though they had no chance of doing anything. And the only thing they had to play for was the number 1 overall pick. And they shut him down and said, you can't play. And he was just like, man, no, like I can't take that. These guys, that's the reason these guys are in the NFL, and why some of them are great is because they're built different like that. It doesn't matter to them, whether you're in the playoffs or not, what your team's pick status, is or not. They're going to go out there and ball, and they're going to fight. Now, for this team, I always find it a little bit cliche and overly done when people start talking about, if you're not ready to do X, Y, Z, don't even bother showing up next week. But here's what I'm going to say, because Ben Johnson's been in this position before. He's been on a team, and been the offensive coordinator on a team that has just missed out on a Super Bowl. They lost a couple years ago in the NFC Championship, the Lions here, to the San Francisco 49ers with the Super Bowl on the line. And they lost last year as well to the Commanders in the divisional round. So they know, and he knows, and the team has packed this roster with guys like Joe Tooney and Kevin Byards and whatever that are filling the team, Grady Jarrett's, and filling this team with this message. It's a different level of focus. There's a different level of focus you got to have for the playoffs. You have to be completely keyed in. You have to execute every single time, because every mistake is magnified and every opportunity is that much more precious. And I think that's really what he's trying to convey. And I can feel the energy and the desperation coming from him, because he's been that close before as a coach. Even if it was an offensive coordinator, not as a head coach, he's been that close before. And there are some guys who have won it. Tooney has been in Super Bowls like half his career. He knows what it takes to win. And I know that all the guys in the locker room have been hearing that all week. This is what it takes.
Speaking of all the guys in the locker room and everything that's important here, we're going to move on to our training room roundup. This is where we're going to have a discussion about what is going on both sides of the ball. So the three guys who are going to be out to this week, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Amin Agbabanigba, and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, all with concussions. Obviously, CJ, the only starter, specifically the one that has the biggest role that will be out. The biggest news is the fact that guys like Kyler Gordon, he's listed as questionable. He's going to play. That, and also Dennis Allen said about Kyler Gordon, our plans to have him be a part of the game plan versus Green Bay, specifically how many snaps he gets and what that looks like. We will see. I would imagine they would deploy him a little bit specifically. We will dive into that momentarily. Just to run through some of the other names. Also, Rome Odunze, no designation. He's good to go. Pillow, good to go. Johnny Walker, who had the illness, good to go. DJ Moore, knee, good to go. So pretty much, I mean, there's a couple other people listed on here as well. We could talk about the Braxton Jones of it all and all that, but I mean, this is the healthiest that the Bears have been, really, only missing one key piece in terms of CJ Gardner-Johnson, who did not start the year with the Bears. Danny, I mean, how do you think a guy like Kyler Gordon is going to be deployed coming off of his second IR stint?
I mean, I would have to guess he's going to be on a snap count or a pitch count, however you want to phrase it, right? He's not in game shape. He's played 2 games all year. And while I think he's a fabulous football player when he's out there and playing and in game shape, I don't know what to expect of him. Now, he is a chess piece. He does a lot in terms of the blitz game and run support and being able to do like dime back for stuff with him. And he's one of the better nickels in the league when he's right. It's just he's not been right all year. So while I would love to think he's some skeleton key that unlocks his defense for what Dennis Allen would truly love to do, I don't know that we should expect a ton. Maybe a splash play here or there, like call it 1 or 2 splash plays, but I think there's also a good chance that those 1 or 2 splash plays may come with 1 or 2 times getting burned because he's just not in game shape.
I wouldn't like match him up. That's the thing, exactly like you're saying. Like, I wouldn't throw him on Christian Watson in the slot. That's just not something that I would be excited about because that speed or lack of probably that top end. And then you're going to have Z fatigues in the game as well. That's going to drip down. Also throwing in there the idea that probably off the edge, right? He is a good blitzer out of the slot. So that would be something I would circle, try to create some of that pressure, whether it be simulated or actual, from Kyler Gordon. The other name on the other side of the ball that we have not seen a lot this year is Rome Odunze. Khari, when it comes to Rome, I mean, same concerns, right? When it comes that he has probably not in game shape. You're dealing with that stress fracture. You have to let it rest. Therefore, you're off of your foot. You're not able to keep up the conditioning, whether that be strength or cardiovascular. How do you expect Rome to be deployed in a game like this?
Same thing, snap count. I would probably expect him to play, if say he on a normal day would play 65 to 70% of the offensive snaps. He's probably going to play something more like 40 this time around. He might try to push it, but again, as somebody who's had stress fractures in your feet, not the easiest thing or not the most comfortable thing to try to come back from and just go full bore. It's actually, in my experience, very easy thing to screw up again, which is what he discovered when he tried to come back too early against the Cleveland Browns. I think the nice thing about having Rome back in any capacity, though, and having a largely healthy receiver room is just another weapon, because I would argue the Bears haven't missed him terribly because Colston Loveland has been so good. Luther Burden has been so good. And we've seen more splash out of DJ Moore as the year has gone on. But it gives you a little bit more to think about because, look, I feel like Rome is generally going to be a pretty plug-and-play kind of guy at this point. He knows what he's doing. He knows where he's supposed to be. And he is a playmaker that maybe you're not double circling him when he's on the field, but you're thinking about him because he's a starting receiver in the NFL. So then if you're running, 11 personnel when it's Rome, DJ, and Luther Burden out there and Colston Loveland, that's 4 guys out there that you have to think about very carefully in the passing game. And we will see a good amount of that, even if we don't see it as much as we would like.
Bringing up Colson Loveland, one thing I did want to highlight, people know, right, he had surgery on his right shoulder back in January 2025 to repair AC joint after he had a type 5 dislocation. He played through it during his final season at Michigan. There was a play at the end of the third quarter, that first drive after Caleb's interception, where he dives for the ball and comes up grabbing his right shoulder. I'm not saying this as in like there's necessarily a problem there, but it does highlight that that shoulder still is, it's something to monitor. It's all, probably more so a stinger. Just like that stability isn't necessarily fully there. It's not coincidental that it was the same shoulder that he had that surgery on. So, it's interesting. You see a lot of rookies don't necessarily get a lot of run in their rookie year. Part of it is the playbook, and part of it is the speed of the game, the conditioning of the game. And Colson went very quickly from not really being a part of this offense to, in that Lions game, he was almost the whole offense. So just I think with having Rome back to take a little bit off Colson's plate, he's been doing fantastic, but you want him around for not just this year, not just this playoff, but being able to go strong into next year too.
I genuinely think, and I know we all talked about it in the draft season with him, that it might take a little bit, even maybe the whole season, for him to catch Tyler Warren and surpass him in terms of what he is. But I know this whole show, to my knowledge, liked Colston more than they liked Warren just for what he could be. And we're already seeing the effects of that, where I think you could make an argument he's already one of the top 10 tight ends in football. And I don't think you'd get much pushback. He's one of those guys at tight end. It's awesome how good he's become in such a short time.
No, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. On the Packers end, so there are some things first to highlight, just guys who went on IR. A couple, back in December, Nate Hobbs and Zane Anderson went on IR, Nate Hobbs being the bigger name. One of the reasons why the Packers went out and they claimed Trayvon Diggs off of waivers. On January 3rd, they put Savion Williams, one of their rookie receivers, and Jonathan Jennings onto IR. And then most recently, they put Bo Melton, who is a corner, but also started as receiver, corner, receiver, but really is a corner. But he had a big catch against the Bears in their first matchup, I believe. And then John Williams, I think I mentioned, was also out. In terms of the rest of their players, I know there was a question here in the chat. From George, do you guys think Zach Tom plays? I know he was a DMP, Zach Tom, and it was listed here. I'm pretty sure LaFleur was on record saying that was more of a veteran rest day. I don't know why it wasn't listed as so specifically. I would expect him to play at this point, being limited twice, and also, again, more of that veteran rest day thought process. So Green Bay getting stronger there. Obviously, big names, Jordan Love, he's back after his concussion. Some of the other ones that are interesting here, Dontavian Wicks has been limited with a concussion. I expect him to be able to go. Malik Willis will be available to back up Jordan Love in case anything happens there. So for the most part, besides the guys that are on IR, this Packers team is relatively healthy. And I say relatively just because, their running back room still is a little beat up, but who isn't at this time? In terms of some of the players that are out, right, in between in terms of some of the players who are going to be playing this week who might have been out, Danny, who are you most upset will be playing this game?
Most upset playing? Probably Jordan Love, just because he's their best football player and the $55 million man. Like, I know I've been on record as saying Jordan Love is like Jay Cutler with a nice guy attitude, versus where some days he's the 16th best quarterback in the league. Some days he's the 5th best quarterback in the league. You never know what you're going to get. But largely, he's a good football player. He's a better quarterback than Malik Willis to this point in their career. I think a lot of Malik Willis's success.
Does that need qualification?
No, it's just like there's a segment of Packers Twitter. I'm not sure if you've gone down this road where they're like convinced Malik Willis is way better than Jordan Love because some advanced metrics like yards per attempt.
Yeah.
I think Malik Willis moves the ball differently and also specifically in a way that matches up better against the Bears.
Correct. I would agree with that, but I don't know, man. If it's anyone other than the quarterback, I think you're just telling yourself a lie about what Jordan Love actually is to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, I think when you look at the numbers, I understand that people are going through this with like Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. Like, we got to throw them off a cliff because we don't believe in them. Like, we can find better. It's like the chances that you're going to find better, especially right away, are not good. Jordan Love, by efficiency standards, is one of the best quarterbacks in football. I know it doesn't always look or feel that way. And every once in a while, there's some games that you're just like, bro, okay. But for the most part, he's a really good quarterback. He just is. And I think, look no further than the way that he generally plays against the Bears. There are 2 games in both of which he's been knocked out of where he's kind of scuffled a little bit, or relatively, against the Bears. Every other time, he's doing whatever he wants against Chicago. And I think that if you're a Packers fan, I think you need to be careful what you wish for. Now, in terms of, Jordan Love is, you knew he was going to play. They gave him this time off for this reason, to bring him back. I think the other person that I would be thinking of here is definitely Zach Tom, even though he's a DNP. The Bears' biggest defensive problem is that they can't touch the quarterback. And if they really can't pressure the quarterback at all, this is going to be a problem, because even if Kyler Gordon is back, like you said, there's going to be a snap count, and you don't know what level of conditioning he's at. Like, can he stick with Jaden Reed all the way across the field when he's, running an over route or he's dragging? I think that the Packers have done this the last couple of times. They know how to attack this Bears team. Put your best receivers in the slot and pick on whoever's in there. Now, it might be tougher with Kyler Gordon than it would be with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, because God bless him, he's a solid player. He just can't run. Or like, yeah, we're going to put, Jalen Johnson in there instead of on Christian Watson and run him across the field. And Jalen Johnson, good player, not super fast. So they know what they're going to do.
They're not healthy right now.
It would just make things so much better if Montez Sweat was finally going to have a Montez Sweat game, be really disruptive and get Jordan Love off his spot. But I don't know that that's going to happen.
So you want Montez Sweat to do the thing where he's not impactful for 90% of his snaps, gets one cleanup sack, and everyone's like, there he is. Hooray.
Yay, we got like double-digit sacks. Good job.
I hate this place.
I'm not trying to be a Montez Sweat defender. That's not what this is. I think there needs to be the nuance and context of he's not playing up to the contract he's being given versus he's not being an impactful player, because
he's a solid
he is an impactful player. It is just not up to what you need him to be as edge one.
Yeah. That's a fair way to put it, but I'm never going to let that move live down with everything that was sunk into him.
Yeah. But then that's also like, where do you direct your ire, right? It's not at Montez. He didn't trade himself for a second round pick.
That's the boogeyman of the Bears building. Anything that goes wrong, I direct at Press Taylor, who has nothing to do with anything except for breaking down film.
Actually, a very lovely man. All right, quick break here. Well, he is, and then we'll get into the meat of the matter.
He's a lovely man.
All right. We're not even going to bother with any of that other stuff here. We're just going to get right into it. This new segment that we have for the playoffs, the playoff kinetic chain breakdown, basically how everything is going to connect, intersperse, and end up resulting in basically what's going to happen here on Saturday. All right. So questions, I'm going to throw them out there. I'm going to direct them at somebody. Some of the questions, both of you will answer. Some of them, only one of you will answer. So it just is what it is. Khari, are you surprised this game is the Saturday night game? And then also as a part of that, Packers rested their starters, right, last week. They were locked into the 7th seed, didn't have to worry about it. Bears did not do so, arguably trying to, lock in their 2nd seed, which did not go very great against the Lions. So it's a shorter week. right? Saturday night game, Bears starters don't get as much of a rest. Does that worry you at all?
Surprise? No, because honestly, I'm just kind of like, whatever happens, happens. I'm not in charge of the scheduling. But I would say it doesn't bother me the way that it transpired. Was it a little bit unlucky? Probably. Here's the thing. The Packers had nothing to play for. They were locked in. Good for them. They could rest their starters. The Bears decided that they wanted to play their starters because they wanted the number 2 overall seed. And I understand why, because having the number 2 overall seed means way more to them than probably any other team that had anything to play for. Definitely meant more for them than it did the Eagles, in my opinion, because the prospect of teams having to come to play in Soldier Field when it's, potentially like 10 degrees or lower is a major, in theory, home field advantage as much as you can have. I will say this, right? It's a shorter week. They're probably going to be a little bit more sore. I know obviously they didn't practice really in full on Tuesday, but they kept a lot of stuff back. I will say this, the energy wasn't really there last week, and it was frustrating to see them play that way. But I do think that there is a level of gamesmanship, at least with the game planning itself. They clearly have a lot more stuff up their sleeve for the Packers on Sunday that they didn't want to show. So even if they couldn't rest their bodies, they were able to rest the playbook a little bit, and hopefully that will be enough. And the other thing too is there's no rust issue here. They've been playing, and they're not going to have to get up to speed. And they've also probably been, preparing for the Packers during last week too.
Danny, the Bears and Packers have split the season series 1-1 with 2 close games. What has actually changed, if anything, since the last time these teams played, schematically, emotionally, or is this really, the same 2 teams going at it?
I think, in the physical sense, it's really the same 2 teams. Both are still pretty hurt and missing some key contributors. Both are still, obviously, the Bears and the Packers. But I think the one thing that's really changed, you can feel at least in my opinion, with some of the quotes coming out of Green Bay and stuff, there's a level of almost like desperation coming out of that building. Like, you can feel the 4 straight losses, with one of them being against their division rival, the oldest rival in the NFL. And then there's the other side where it's before I get to that point, where they can maybe, I think you see them maybe feeling the Bears getting good in front of them, not just for the division. We've seen the Bears win a division once every 8 to 10 years, here and there throughout the course of our lives. But this is probably the first time that organization feels like this is sustainable. And especially when the quarterback really, since I brought it up before, but that Giants game really felt like a turning point where Caleb was no longer swimming, no longer in space, just trying to figure out what was happening. It felt like the light bulb kind of came on for him. So they've got the coach, the quarterback is on the ascend and seemingly figured it out. And the vibes are good for the Bears versus the Packers are very much emotional and almost seemingly like desperate or reeling to some extent. And do I think the Bears are an outright better, more talented football team? No, not by any stretch. But I do think it's 2 different iterations of what's being played. One is a growing up team with confidence. One is like, we need to win this because we need to show we're still the big brother kind of thing. And it's like them seeing their little brother get bigger and stronger and faster than them in front of them.
And so actually, I'm glad you said that, because I had this question. I was going to ask you it, but I might as well ask Khari since you kind of already answered it. Is this more about the Bears proving they've arrived, or the Packers trying to reassert ownership of the rivalry? Essentially, who has more to lose and who has more to gain in this matchup, Khari?
That's a good one. I think that the way the media is kind of spinning it right now, it's that the Bears, they would kind of be like, the Bears have to prove they belong. That we're rolling with the Packers and their pedigree because the Bears always fold to the Packers, etc. And the Bears have to prove it, until further notice. Forgetting, I think that the Bears have split these last 4 matchups. And even Dan Orlovsky being like, oh, yeah, I think the Packers win and they win handedly. They haven't won handedly in 2 years. Why do you think they're suddenly going to win handedly now?
But Ralph Love says that Green Bay has more talent, and he is a Bears fan, but he can keep it real, and we might lose big Saturday.
I don't think they have more talent now that Micah Parsons is gone. I've talked to a couple of people out this that have played in the league. And again, I think that it's an overgeneralization to say that losing Micah Parsons means that like they're a terrible team, because they're not. They're still a good team. But I would argue that losing Parsons really reduces that margin. And look, when they had Parsons earlier this year, it still came down to, one throw that if Caleb Williams, had got it out on time, it was, you tie the game probably, and it goes to overtime. So I don't think that this is some huge talent gap for the Bears. I really don't. I think that if you want my answer to this question, I think Green Bay is probably under a little bit of pressure right now to prove that they control this matchup, because they haven't controlled it the last 2 years. And they might be the betting favorite, but they are the number 7 seed here. They have to go to Chicago and they have to win without Parsons. So this is a tougher road for the Packers than I think people are letting on about. I'm not saying that means the Bears are definitely destined to win, but I think that the Bears have given themselves the best possible chance to win this game.
And there's something that has to be said. I mean, people kind of forget Brian Murphy specifically said he was not extending either Gutekunst, the Packers GM, or LaFleur. He just doesn't do that early. That opens the door and leaves that door open for potentially a change to be made at either position. Now, I think it's crazy if the Packers were to let go of a LaFleur, because grass is always greener kind of thing. But, a couple names have popped up. We're not going to get into all that, but, it is interesting you talk to some Packers fans, and some want LaFleur out. Some are just going to be like, hey, wait and see. Well, be careful what you wish for, but also there is a little subtext to this game that if you have another instance where you get bounced, because this is the 3rd time that they're the 7th seed, which in past seasons wouldn't have even made the playoffs for the Packers. So I think that does matter. All right, Danny, this one is for you. I know that there are a couple of the Bears fans for sure, but actually some previous Bears players, especially, some of those individuals kind of in the Urlacher years, things of that nature, who were actively rooting to not play the Packers. Just some consternation about going up against a team that's held this division and held this matchup, by the throat for a while. Is there a reason why Bears fans, Bears alum, however you want to look at it, should no longer fear playing the Packers and really should want this matchup? Or should they have hoped that they had pulled the Rams, the Seahawks, the 49ers, however it could have worked out?
I think this is the level of consternation between admitting the Packers are a less desirable matchup than say the San Francisco 49ers, and saying that former alumni, players, analysts, etc., are afraid of the Bears matchup with the Packers. I think those are 2 different arguments or 2 different framings. Myself personally, I would have much rather seen the 49ers, but I understand wanting the 2nd seed. It's not that I'm afraid of the Packers. It's that the Bears literally haven't had the lead in a game this year, and that Jeff Hafley and Matt LaFleur, frankly, in the first 2 matchups, have outcoached the Bears. And that's
Could the same thing be said about the 49ers, though?
I mean, no, they were taking it to that deep. They were moving the ball at will on San Francisco, where I felt they were more beatable, especially when you bring San Francisco to a cold weather environment. Versus Green Bay plays in the cold. They're built for a more cold weather game as well. But that's not me saying I think the thing if you have alumni, like, I don't know, that sounds like something Jerry Azuma would say for some reason in my brain.
Shot at Jerry Azuma.
random shot across the bow at the former Bears kick returner. But like, because these guys didn't have success against those teams. And when, like, I know that quote lives on, but the Aaron Rodgers, I own you, I've always owned you, will always live on until they get rid of it. Now, should the Bears of this roster feel that way, and should fans feel that way? No, because I will sit here and tell you, at the beginning of the year, I didn't know where Johnson would land, and I didn't know where Caleb Williams would land in the pecking order of this NFC North. As it stands right now, I believe they have the best head coach in the NFC North, and they have what I believe will be the best quarterback by midseason next year in the NFC North. You shouldn't be afraid of anybody.
Yeah.
Because you have the recipe for sustained long NFL success. You have a guy who should be in the MVP conversations, a quarterback going forward, and you have that guy at head coach who should be in the mold of McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur, etc. Now, that being said, kind of like you alluded to, this game, if the Bears win, has a lot of ability to flip the NFC on its head, because I personally believe if the Packers lose and don't reassert themselves as the dominant big brother in this relationship, I believe Matt LaFleur will be fired.
Listen, I mean, we've just
This was not a you conversation, Khari. It specifically was sent to Danny.
You big dumb jerk.
Yeah. These are assigned to you, like this one. Who's the Packers player that scares you the most and why?
Man, get out of here.
Ask you the same question, to be honest, Danny. So go ahead and answer. Who's the Packers player that scares you the most and why?
Scares me the most and why right at this moment is probably Christian Watson, because the Bears have shown a negative ability to cover anything lately or get off the field on third down. And Christian Watson, since he's been back from IR and even with the shoulder injury that he had, tendency to just have couple big plays a game and ruin your day. And he's good at football, better than I ever thought he would be coming out of, what was it, North Dakota State University, NDSU. And just like on just the surface of what he could do, like, I would love to say Josh Jacobs. I just don't think he's right. That knee is not going to be right till next year. And I frankly think they're going to have to throw the ball. I think that throwing the ball is how they probably end up beating the Bears if that's what happens. It's going to be put on Jordan Love's shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to answer, Khari? Or do you want the next one?
I would say Christian Watson. I think that not just because
he stole my answer. Cut him off.
Yeah, there we go. The speed and home run hitting ability, whether it's down the field or whether you're taking him in the slot and having him run away from somebody, no matter who it is. I mean, he could run away from Jalen Johnson too. So I think he and just generally the issues with the slot defense are going to force the Bears to make some difficult decisions about how they play defense, because in order to really stop this stuff, you want to be able to play zone and make it more difficult, make Jordan Love have to read it out. But if you only rush 4, you're probably not getting to Jordan Love, and he's going to be able to do whatever he wants anyway. He's going to have all the time in the world. And then if you play man coverage and try to get home, then they're going to roll Christian Watson inside and throw him a slant and see if he can take it 60 yards. So that definitely worries me. We already saw that. I don't want to see it again.
A couple of more Bears-centric questions, Danny, for you first. With 270 yards of offense Sunday, the Bears dropped from 3rd in the NFL to 6th in total offense. By the way, this is actually per Kevin Fishbane. 2 teams that jumped them were the Lions, who had 433 yards in that game at Soldier Field, and Mitch Trubisky-led Bills with 470. It's still the franchise record that best finished since 1983, though. So, Danny, are you concerned at all about the offense going into this game?
Not really, no. I think they've shown an ability to be the most I believe at last check, I didn't check after the Lions game, but following the Week 17 matchup against the Niners, I believe they led the league in explosive plays per game. So it was the little stuff and the needing to get like the easy stuff and the layups, as it were, was what was holding them back, along with holding onto the damn football when it's thrown into your hands and you know, running with it. But no, it's a great finish for the offense, for an offense that started just pathetically slow the first couple weeks of the season until they got right after the bye. It's like leading up to the week 5 bye, they were like using that almost as like an elongated preseason to figure out what they could or could not do. And really, like, I just don't know how checked into that game the Bears were until the fourth quarter. Like, so that's an indictment on the coaching staff and players to some degree, obviously, and I don't like how it looked. But I also think there was some level of they were gearing up in their brains for the playoffs, like, because they have never been there before. So, no, I don't really want to put much stock into them falling from 3 to 6 because big games happen, especially the week 18 in the NFL is just wonky and weird. For
talking to a lot of either reporters that were there or fans that were there at that game, they were talking about how even just the stadium didn't have the energy that it probably should have had from like fandom and stuff too. So, you know, if you as a fan aren't getting up for the game, it's not surprising that maybe some of the players and coaches aren't necessarily, and like you said, looking ahead to the Packers matchup. Khari, what do you think is Ben Johnson's biggest chess move opportunity in this matchup?
Interesting. Okay. I am going to throw a wild one out there that I don't even know is necessarily a good idea, but I might experiment with. Tyreek Hill as a solution to your slot corner problem. I think that
Tyreek Stevenson?
Yeah, Tyreek Stevenson.
I was like, is his knee okay all of a sudden?
And now he's on the bench. I thought that he was playing.
No, you said Tyreek Hill.
Oh, Tyreek Hill.
That's where we got confused.
Oh, Tyreek Hill defending receivers in the slot, sick. He's gonna be faster than all of them. That's one thing you could say. He would have been faster than all of them. But Tyreek Stevenson as a potential solution to your slot corner problem. I don't necessarily love that idea, but I feel like, especially if you've got Kyler Gordon on a snap count and you're not sure how he's going to be, I think it's fine to like Nahshon Wright on the outside. I think he's played solidly and is better suited for that. Stevenson has a bit more speed to him, and I think could maybe give you a little bit of that skill set if you want it, just to give it a different look. So that's kind of my idea. Like maybe that's part of why it's like, yeah, we're keeping him off the field for a second, and now we're going to throw him in there and kind of some in these dime packages or nickel or whatever, just to be like, oh, okay, well, thought we were just going to run away from whoever was in there, but maybe we're not going to run away from Tyreek Stevenson.
And I had this question for later, but you brought it up. The Bears secondary has been rough as of late. Jalen Johnson is nowhere near 100%. Nahshon just can't match up man-to-man on crosses or comebacks. Teenage Gardner Johnson obviously was doing his best, but he's truly a safety and now concussed and out. So, Danny, I'll flip this to you then. With all that being said, I mean, why is Tyreek Stevenson playing the same number of snaps as Tyson Bagent in that last game, a.k.a. 0?
Is it possible he just sucks?
No.
It's very possible that he sucks.
No, he doesn't suck. Because we've seen him play well. So, therefore, he doesn't suck.
So, here's the thing, Mason, and I don't know that I can say that because Nahshon Wright has been getting barbecued the last couple weeks and been just the target of offensive play callers between Dan Campbell last week and Kyle Shanahan the week before that. He has been just the guy they pick on. And we all kind of know Nahshon Wright isn't as good as the turnovers would indicate. And every year there's one of these random corners, especially going into free agency, who causes a litany of turnovers and looks way better than they actually are. And I'm happy for Nahshon Wright. He's going to get paid. He's not that good at football.
But that's actively untrue. He was playing good football this year before he got hurt.
Okay, so and then he became Nahshon Wright again.
Oh, sorry, I was talking about Tyreek. Were you talking about Nashawn on that one?
I was talking about Nashawn right there.
Oh,
so, but my
yeah,
problem
he's
is
not he's not good at I agree with you. Sorry.
So my point is, if he's not good and they're not playing Tyreek, doesn't that also probably indicate that Tyreek isn't that good?
No, I think so. My perspective on Tyreek, and you can take this how you so choose, but is that he is a corner that fits in a specific kind of play style and scheme, right? And he's more of a man-to-man guy than he is a zone guy, in my opinion. And in addition to that, he's a guy that plays with the swagger. And when mentally he gets messed up, and we saw that last year with the whole Washington debacle, that messes with his ability to play. And then, as I said, because I thought you were talking about Nashawn, but with Tyreek, he was playing well before he had this most recent injury. He came back from the injury, and he is again not looked very good. And I do think a part of that is he's a guy that has to trust his body and gets affected by that. So I'm not saying actively that, he should be starting over Nashawn or something like that. But I mean, when Nashawn's looking like burnt toast, at least what we've seen from Tyreek across his early career, he is better at coverage than Nashawn is he not?
Sure. I could agree with that. Also, just because you threw it on the screen for a split second. So Mr. William Bowman, I don't think Jalen Johnson's ever played safety a snap in his career.
You can't.
What? No, you're not trying that.
Do you think at some point, well, this is now like I say I wouldn't get off the rails. I'm gonna get off the rails with the question. Is he the kind of corner that could do the Ramsey thing because he lost a step and play safety?
I don't really see him like that.
I don't know if I'd be
able to do that.
He's not like some rangy ball hockey kind of guy. I don't think he's necessarily an exceptional tackler. I like in that way where
he's got great feet and he mirrors.
Where like exactly, he is a cornerback. Like he's not over. Like you might not be the fastest cornerback, but look, you don't always have to have the greatest top end speed in the world to be a cornerback. And the other thing you got to remember with him is that so he's hurt. And he's probably not 100%, but maybe 100% Jalen Johnson. You bring him back next year, and he's an elite cornerback again. Look, you can't just throw him at safety and just be like, "Oh yeah, that'll be great." No, it won't. That'll suck.
You know what this is, Kyrie? This is people who play too much Madden.
The problem is it's a valid point. He's trying
later in his career, maybe.
So William is trying to solve a problem. The problem is Jalen Johnson is slow as shit right now. Like he can't keep up. And you're paying this guy and da-da-da-da. The problem is there's not an easy solution to this, right? Because you have other guys that are hurt, like Tyreek Stevenson in and out. Nashawn Wright, he had some injury and illness at some point. You don't have an actual answer here. So, but unfortunately, this is your team, and you just got to play with burnt toast Jalen Johnson for now.
Yeah.
Burnt toast
Jalen. And I think the reality is that, look, people were complaining about the Bears defense after the 49ers game. And there's a part of me that's like, I don't know what you want at this point. The defense isn't good. Defense isn't going to magically get better. There's not one player that you could put in this lineup that'll make the defense all of a sudden be amazing. Right. Either they have weaknesses, they have flaws, and good teams in the playoffs are going to know how to exploit it. So they're going to exploit the flaws. So look, either you got to get lucky or those dudes up front got to play better. Or Jalen Johnson's got to play better. It just is what it is. You're not going to magically make this a top 10 defense. You got to live with it. You got to ride out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. One thing I think you could do is I think there could be some scheme changes that could help. You're not fixing it, but it does bother me that, and this is the Dennis Allen of it all, it does bother me that there doesn't seem to be a lot of adjustments in game. Like if there's a game where it's like, look, we're playing a bunch of zone. Jordan Love is tossing you up, and you don't adjust at all in that game. You see that you're playing a bunch of man against the Lions, and because you want to blitz, and then you see that's not working, and you're like, you know what, we're going to keep doing it. That's my biggest problem is the lack of in-game adjustment when you see that the thing you want to try, which is great because you don't have a lot to work with right now when you're Dennis Allen. That's 100% true, but it's like also, could you make a little bit of a change?
I just don't think they have the bodies to try to change in game. I know that sounds like a cop out, but it's the genuine truth.
But my biggest what I'm asking for is disguise your man and play some zone more frequently in the game. My thing is saying, like, so Dennis Allen has one of the most static defenses. If they're in one high, they're in one high. If they're in two high, they're in two high. You do not see them start two and roll down to one. And I wholeheartedly believe in Jaquan Brisker's ability to walk 10 yards forward as the ball is being snapped.
I wonder, and this is super wishful thinking, I hope that they are saving stuff for the playoffs. And I was even thinking of it when they were talking about how much man coverage they were playing in this last game. There was a part of me that thought, you know what, maybe they're just trying something out here and seeing what we can do.
Which is entirely possible. Like, yeah, they're just like, we haven't really done this a lot. Let's see what it looks like.
Yeah, which obviously it was bad.
Not
but
good.
I just really hope that they've been saving stuff in their bag for this. So, you know what? We'll keep on hoping.
They are.
But you're right.
All right, so back to some of the questions. Khari, this one's for you. In the last 5 games, Caleb has logged 15, 13, 30, 18, and 1 rushing yard. Should Ben lean on Caleb's legs more? And that's not saying run him 15 times. That's saying 2 or 3 designed runs, maybe an RPO here and there, or at least or a conversation of saying, if you don't see it, take off.
If you don't see it take off, you don't need to be doing design runs for Caleb Williams unless, we're talking about a quarterback sneak, or you want to get tricky at some point do like a read option or something when you've handed the ball off enough times and they're not paying attention. Because I think with Caleb Williams, unlike a Justin Fields or something like that, where you're kind of expecting it, you might not be expecting Caleb Williams to keep one on a zone read. And you could get away with that in the red zone or on a 4th and 2 or whatever it is, maybe. But I think that by and large, you let Caleb Williams create the way that he does. You tell him to step up in the pocket and take off if he sees a lane, because look, Caleb's got wheels and his legs have done some damage, against a number of defenses. And he picked up some key yards at the end of that first pack, or the second Packers matchup that they won. So I would say, tell him that if it's not there, or if you see it, go for it. Otherwise, keep playing with the rhythm you've had from the pocket, because we don't want to mess that up.
I like that answer. Last offensive, more specific question for you, Danny. Colston Loveland is 6th in EPA per target, and Luther Burden is 13th as rookies. For context, 1 through 5 are Puka Nacua, Stephon Diggs, George Kittle, Alec Pierce, and George Pickens. Is this Ben Johnson just cooking, or are these dudes for real, or both?
It's some level of both, obviously. Like I said, I think specifically Colston Loveland is just one of them ones at tight end. And you know it when you see it. You saw it early with Brock Bowers last year. You saw it early with Sam Laporta a couple years ago. You saw it early with Trey McBride down in Arizona. Sometimes you just know you got one of those guys at tight end. But Luther, I think, is a bit more interesting because his sample size, I'm going to guess, is smaller than Colston's. Now, I'm not saying that it's fool's gold or anything, because I fully believe, and I was actually texting Kyrie in our group chat about this earlier, I think Luther Burden is fantastic with the football in his hands, and he's only going to get better. I think a lot of that is due to schemed open stuff earlier on in his career, and Ben has told us he wants people. He doesn't want contested throws. He wants people open. Fine. I'm good with it.
Yeah.
I think both of them are just really damn good football players, and those 2 picks specifically could be setting up the Bears offense long term, because I said it very early when we started to see a flash here or there, like week to week from Luther Burden, that Luther Burden was the most valuable wide receiver on the Bears, including Rome Odunze, and I got flamed for it. But I believed it then. I believe it more now. Your 2 best offensive targets are these 2 rookies, and I don't think it's particularly close.
I also actively thought that Rome would take another step this year. I mean, part of it is the injury, of course, but even pre-injury, there were just too many times where you expected him to maybe be a little bit more of a ball winner, right? And there'd be a drop, or not even really a drop, but like a true contested catch he wouldn't come down with. And you just didn't really see that. And on top of that, like you talked about, Danny, the Luther's bag of movement is just so electric that, I mean, it's crazy.
I think I said it like week 4 or 6 on this show, where he has "don't let me get on the field" energy because he's going to take your effing job. And that's what's happened. He got on the field and he took your fucking job.
I thought it was just going to be DJ Moore's job, but he's taken Rome's wide receiver 1 job. Not that Rome can't, still be a really good player, but they're just 2 very different kinds of receivers too.
They are.
Mm-hmm. All right, Khari, this one's for you. So follow me down this path a little bit. In week 18, the Lions, some of the longer Lions drives were 11 plays, 16 plays, 9 plays, 11 plays, 10 plays, with a time possession difference 35 to about 24 minutes, favoring the Lions. In week 17, the 49ers had played drives of 9, 9, 15, 8, time possession 33 to about 26, favoring the 49ers. Week 16, Packers 9, 14, 16, 9, 10 play drives with a time possession difference of 38 minutes for the Packers, 26 for the Bears. Nothing has really seemed to work consistently for this defense, as we've already talked about. What is the answer to trying to shift some of this time of possession and or increasing the number of drives that the Bears can get? Because at the end of the day, the Bears are losing out on the drive opportunities due to how long some of these drives for the opposing team are taking.
I might flip this one. I don't know that there's anything they can do to shorten the drives. I feel like the way to do it is to reduce the number of drives in the game by keeping the damn ball yourself.
That's where I was leaning, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. And because look, the defense, we know what it is, right? And unfortunately, Andrew Billings has taken a step back in terms of his ability to, be kind of a run plugging guy. I don't necessarily think that, the run defense is the biggest problem with the defense. But I think it is a problem because if you are constantly in 2nd and 3 and 3rd and 4, it's not great. So you need to find a way because look, in the end, people will talk about the pass defense and the corners. You got to be able to stuff these guys on 1st down and 2nd down in your base defense. You got to force them into some 3rd and longs or 3rd and mediums or whatever. Give yourself a chance. Now, the other side of that is just on offense, you have to hold the ball. You have to dominate the time of possession. You've got to have the 10 play, 12 play, 11 play drives. You got to chew it up. And that's where the Bears run game is arguably the most important factor offensively in the playoffs. More so even, I feel like, than Caleb Williams' ability to be Superman or Rome Odunze coming back or whatever. If the Bears can run the football effectively at Soldier Field for as long as they can, or even if they had to go to Seattle, if you can run the football, you will have a chance.
This was per Tej Seth on Twitter, so that's Tej FB Analytics. So I'm sure everyone has seen this, but to highlight it, the final running back total EPA leaderboard of the season, DeAndre Swift ended 2nd with 28.7 rushing EPA, and you also had Kyle Monangai at 12th with 13.9. That's pretty good company to be keeping. So absolutely, Khari. I mean, you have to be able to turn on the ground here if you're going to have a chance to win this game. All right, last full question before we just kind of do a general conversation here. Again, follow me down this pathway. The Packers-Bears will be officiated by Adrian Hill's crew that is dead last in games called this year with 14, but 2nd in penalty flags thrown per game at 17.9 per game. Yeah, they really go after aggressive cornerback play. Hill hasn't worked a Packers game this year, but actually, apparently he's an aerospace software engineer in a past life. Crazy. Did call 2 one-score games for the Bears this year. That was the Vegas and the New York Giants games. This year, he's calling about 1 more offensive holding per game than the NFL average. His games also have a 46% increase in defensive pass interferences and a 102% increase in illegal contact calls compared to the NFL average. His crew calls unnecessary roughness at a 44% lower rate than the rest of the NFL. Defensive offsides at 60% less, and illegal use of hands at 67% less. So just with all that thought process in mind, Danny, I'll start with you. Who does this favor more? Personally, I just feel like a lot of Bears drives either don't even really get off the ground or end because of penalties. So I'm a little worried.
So I can feel why people would be worried. I'm the wrong person to ask for zebra talk because I feel like fans inherently think refs hate their team, even though the same shitty refs are calling plays for both, calling penalties for both teams. It always seemingly evens out if you go and look at the totals near the end of games. The Bears' big bugaboo is pre-snap penalties on offense. That's what kills them.
Exactly.
So I don't really care about the the offside stuff and whatnot. Even though, truth be told, it seems like every week now Caleb gets one of those Aaron Rodgers-esque plays on like 3rd and inches or 4th and inches to get a guy off and just throw a free play and see what happens. But no, I don't really think it's much of a factor because I think when you start, here's what I'll say. I think Bears fans, teams that are fans of traditionally losing franchises are more prone to blaming refs because it's an easy scapegoat when your team sucks. And I've just never subscribed to that. So I'm the wrong person to really ask to delve into that conversation too much.
The way and Khari, I'm going to go to you in a second for this one too. The way I was going more with this is, like you said, the pre-snap stuff. If you are creating more opportunity for a flag happy crew, or in general, flag happy on both sides, right? Crew to potentially throw a flag, right? That's a problem. And we have just seen so far, for whatever reason, that where a team that is so disciplined in a lot of other things just happens to be either mentally still figuring it out or undisciplined, to however you want to look at it, or what you want to attribute it to, specifically in some of that pre-snap stuff. So it's more about opportunity than it is, man, the Bears are getting screwed.
Yeah, I think it's going to mainly be an issue, as you kind of hinted, on defense. And I think you would hope that, you get a better whistle at home. But I think it's going to mainly be an issue for pass plays, and it could be especially a problem if the Bears, have to play a lot of man against these wide receivers, because the Packers wide receivers are just going to be faster than whoever the Bears put in front of them generally. And so there's probably going to be some holding and grabbing. If Tyreek Stevenson's out there, you're probably going to get some penalties on him because it's pretty par for the course. So I feel like that's where I'm going to see people get pissed off, is holding penalties and pass interference on the Bears. I think the main thing is going to be, okay, how do you force that on the other end? And I feel like the guy who could draw those kinds of penalties the most on the other side of the equation is going to be Colston Loveland. Whatever linebacker or safety they're putting on him, he is, such a good receiver and such a matchup problem that I could see some flags going his way in particular.
All right, so Bear Gut Check. This is a part of the show we've done before, but again, a little different for this playoff matchup. So I'm going to go to you, Danny, first. Paint me a word picture, if you could, about what you think is going to happen in this game, who's going to win, and why it would happen.
What do I think? I think this is going to be a rock fight for all intents and purposes. Because you wanted a word picture. It's got to be a rock fight.
I like it. I enjoyed it. That's why I chuckled.
The way I imagine they're going to try to do this is the same way LaFleur has gone about this pretty much the first 2 games. Control the ball, a lot of death by 1,000 paper cuts, passing concepts, a lot of Josh Jacobs and the I forget his name, but the running refrigerator who backs up Josh Jacobs, he's a bad body running back. I forget his name. Emmanuel Wilson, the bad body running back. It's like, oh God. But there's just, and when I say that, I also mean it on the other side, where the Packers linebackers are so well disciplined. And what I didn't factor in when we were talking about the second game, when they really, for all intents and purposes, kind of shut down the Bears running backs. Like, they ran for 150 yards. 40 of those yards was a DJ Moore end around and a Caleb Williams, 38 yards on the ground. Like, it wasn't like the running backs did all the damage.
No, Swift only had 58 and Monunga had 50 for averages of 4.5 and 5.6. But
yeah. So basically, I think the Bears are again going to try to do the cold weather thing, where I think they're projecting 20 to 30 mile an hour gusts of wind, which Caleb has the arm to rip through that, but I think they are going to try to line up and pound the ball. And I really think it's going to go that way both ways. And it's just going to it really may end up looking a lot like the first two matchups where whoever's got the ball last is going to win. And the thing I would like to point out is I think the Bears will end up winning this game in this rock fight. I don't think it goes to overtime. They'll probably win by like 6 or something like that. But I just think that the thing that they have to do if they really want to ensure like a comfortable victory where you're not just like sweating it out and grinding your teeth the whole time is by getting their linebackers out of source. And by that I mean establishing the run game like Khari was alluding to, and then getting them to come down and commit to that, and letting the tight ends then have these linebackers make business decisions. Because I went back and watched both games in all 22 against the linebackers. Jeff Hafley has those linebackers coached up. They fill, they flow, they stack and shit. They are very, very good. Like, for a guy who loves linebacker play, like, they're as close to probably the most well-coached unit in the league as you're going to get in terms of just how you play the position of linebacker in today's NFL.
It doesn't seem like they have missteps like that. They're not like taking the wrong step forward or backward at any given time. And
they don't get fooled.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, it's remarkable how well coached they are. And I think that's a Hafley thing. I think Hafley actually cut his teeth as a linebacking coach. If memory serves, I might be speaking out of turn there. But that's what I think is going to be their key to victory, is really, despite the spine of the defense in the middle for like in terms of safeties and defensive tackles for the Packers is kind of beat up and gone. Like, those linebackers are playing really good football. And I think
he coached a lot as a defensive backs coach, actually.
Yeah.
Really? I thought it was linebackers. Wow.
So Khari,
thank you for catching that.
If you had pulled that this this DC, and you knew that he was a linebackers coach, it would have been nuts. But because you do know that stuff, though, it's just weird how you had that locked in your brain. I'm terrible at those things. Khari, what is your word picture for how you think this game turns out?
Slugfest to the death. I think that's really what it's going to feel like, a war of attrition, just like the last one. We're going to beat the hell out of each other. It's going to be cold. It's going to be
fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think about how the Bears came out with everything they had in that last game. You could see it. And even going into the end of the fourth and overtime, both teams were pretty beat up. And it's just going to be a matter of who wants it more. And I think that, obviously execution is going to matter and who's better coached. But I think that in the end, these are two, even if not completely equally coached teams, two well-coached teams. And it's going to come down to just who wants to make that play, or who's going to slip up at the inopportune time and who's going to take advantage. And that's where having the team that has turned over opponents the most in the entire league and given the ball away the least of any team in the NFL can potentially help you.
All right, that is our preview for Packers Bears at Soldier Field Saturday on Amazon Prime, of all things. 7 o'clock, 7:20, whatever the actual kickoff is, I always forget. Thank you for joining us here. Really appreciate it. Cool that you guys are a part of the first playoff bare bones. There wasn't an opportunity to do this before because playoffs weren't a thing for the Bears. But hopefully this is a consistent thing from here on out, whether we're talking this year, maybe stringing together a couple wins and going forward.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having us. It was good to be back, and bear down,
Any parting words there, Danny?
Khari, you are maroon, quite literally.
Bear down.
Hey, what has two thumbs and hates Todd Packer? This guy.